making a tutorial on how to replace the LCD assembly on the Apple iPhone 6, as you see here. Replacing the screen on this iPhone is actually pretty simple. Shouldn't take you any more than about 20 to 25 minutes. Yeah, some tools you'll need to fix this phone would be a Penelope screwdriver, just to get the two bottom screws off of the phone, as you see here. And you'll need a Phillips screwdriver, a flathead, some plastic tools that probably come with the screen when you buy it, and a heat gun would be very useful if you have it. If not, maybe a hair blower, hair dryer would get the job done. Okay, to begin the phone repair, you need to take the Penelope screwdriver, as we were talking about earlier, and remove these two bottom screws here. And I like to set my screws, in order. So like from the first step until the last step, I'll set it, anywhere from top going down, later on installing it. Then I work my way from bottom and up. After you've got the screws off, you can either use a suction tool to remove the screen from the frame, or you can do it the way I do it. If you have maybe a razor blade or something flat, like a flat tool like this, you could use it. And you can start by noticing where the screen and the frame meets and just putting it right in between and gently getting it up. Once you get it up a little bit, you're going to take a plastic tool and work your way around the screen. I'm pulling it up. And this is how the phone opens up here. Once you've gotten the screen loose, you can lift up the assembly like this. Some people like to put something here just to hold the screen for you, so you can have both hands free. Or if you're like me, I just like to use one hand and hold the screen assembly up like this. Once you've got the screen up, you can either put something here to hold the screen for you. But if you're like me, then I just use one hand. I hold the assembly up. I use my other hand to unscrew all the screws. So yep, you see that the first step here, you have to remove this plate with 5 screws holding it. This will be the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You need to remove those 5 screws to remove the connectors from the LCD off of the board. So I'll go ahead by doing this. Now once you got those 5 screws out, you can easily just take the plate off and set it aside next to the 5 screws. Like I said earlier, I like to organize my screws going down, and then it makes it a lot simpler later to install them. Now you see there are 4 connectors here that's connected on the board, and there's several different ways of getting this up, but personally I like to use this tool here that comes with the toolkits, and I just slowly get the corner of the flexes and lift them up gently. You want to make sure you don't pull on them too hard. You can damage the board permanently, and it wouldn't be good. And then you just slowly take the screen off of the frame itself. Once you've got the screen off, you can basically just set this part aside, this part of the phone aside. You're not going to need it much until later. So yeah, now if you turn the screen around and lay it down on the front end, you can see there are a lot of components that you'll need to remove to install into the new screen, being the earpiece and the front camera flex here, this mid plate you see here, and this bottom plate, which is holding the home button, and you have to transfer all of this onto the new screen. As you see here, this is the new screen assembly I have. It's a brand new screen assembly. It's not a full assembly, so you will have to transfer all these components over on it. So I'll go ahead and unbox this. I'll just set it aside here for you so you see the difference. Yep, you need to remove this protector film from this new screen. And a lot of times there is going to be maybe a piece of adhesive up here. You need to remove that too. Just hold the flexes together so it doesn't damage while shipping, I guess. And now you can proceed by removing these screws. I like to go from top to bottom. Now you could, whichever, you may find an easier way, but this is my easiest way, I feel like. So I'll remove these 3 screws up here. You have 1, 2, 3. I'll remove these screws first. and I'll set them below the 5 screws from the plate that I took off earlier. Now once you remove those screws, you can easily just lift this plate here and set it aside so you know what those screws are going to. And after removing that plate, you'll see here, this is going to be your front camera flex. You see it's going to dangle like this a bit. What I like to do first is I like to remove this earpiece here and just set it aside. And now you have this cable just laying here. And the easiest way to remove this, what I like to do is I like to take my flathead, and if you can see there's this top part here, I like to go under it, not all the way, just a little bit, and kind of pick it up. And now you'll see that there is the microphone that's still attached to it, which would be this gold piece here. Now to remove this without damaging it, I simply just go from the corner up here and I work my way under the flex to remove it off this adhered piece here. And now that we have the cable aside, I'll just set that aside. Now what I like to do next is, you notice that there are 3 screws on each side holding this mid plate in here. So I'll go ahead and remove the 3 screws. And making sure you have like a magnetized tool is actually very important in fixing the screen. I mean, you can work without it, but it just makes it a lot easier and everything a lot smoother if your tools are magnetized. Now after removing the 3 screws from each side, you see what I've done here, you can go ahead and remove 1, 2, 3. These 3 screws here holding the home button plate. Go ahead and do that. Now after removing these screws, the plate simply just comes off. I like to set it aside next to the 3 screws that I just removed, just so I know, what screws go to which plate and whatnot. Now you see here what we have left is the plate and the home button here. So next what you would do is just notice this is the connector for the home button. You can just simply just take something flat, kind of pry it up, and it comes unplugged. And to get the home button off, what I like to do is I'll take my finger and I'll push in from this side, just give it a little bit of pressure, not too much, and the home button comes off. And once you see that it has come off, you'll just simply take it and slowly and gently pull it up without ripping this connector. And now our next step here would be to remove this mid plate. And this is where you're going to need the heat gun we were talking about, or the hair blower, hair dryer, whatever it is. To remove this plate is actually really simple, but the only reason why you will need the heat gun is because this cable down here, which the home button was connected to, it's adhered down onto the screen itself. So what you'll want to do is you're going to want to take your heat gun or hair dryer, you're going to want to heat up this bottom portion for a bit. Shouldn't heat it up too much, just about 4 to 5 seconds, just to loosen up the glue on the bottom a bit. Now what I do is I just slowly pull it up with a little bit of heat. It doesn't take much effort at all. And now that you've gotten that plate off, we're done with the old screen assembly. Now you can work on putting everything onto the new assembly. New screen assembly here. The first thing I like to do is take this plate. I'd like to install this plate first, but when installing this plate, you want to make sure that this ribbon here, you want to make sure the plate goes on top of it. So what you'll do is you'll just hold that flex cable down there and install the plate right on top of it, and align these holes here onto the screen so you can get your screws in properly. And now I'll go ahead and take the 6 screws that I've taken off and install 3 on each side. Now that we have those 3 screws on, we can go and move to the next step. Okay, next thing I do, this is just easier for me. I like to put the home button on next. And you see this cable down here, you just want to sit it down a little bit, just sit it down a little bit, make sure it's flat. So now you go ahead and take the home button here and just put it on to the new screen. And now you connect it back to where it was originally. Now once you've got that connected, you'll take the home button plate, which is this longer plate here, and we'll just sit it on top. And take the 3 screws and go ahead and screw them back in. Alright, after getting those 3 screws back in, the last step you have on this new screen is installing the front camera flex. Now this can get a little bit tricky, but I'll show you the easiest way, in my opinion, to get this done. Now a lot of new screens, as you see here, are gonna have like a little piece of adhesive covering up the adhesive where the microphone goes. So what you can do is just take a tweezer, remove that little film holding the adhesive. Sorry about that. See there, and now you'll take the flex cable. Now this is the trickiest part, in my opinion. When I first fixed my iPhone 6, this is the part that kind of got me the most. So what I like to do now is I like to separate this gold piece here, and I like to sit it on top where it goes. Yep, once you set it down like that, it should stick on the screen because you just removed that film where it has adhesive. Now what I would do is take the first half of the cable, just open it up, as you see here, have it like that, and set down this part of the ribbon. And now you'll take the earpiece. You want to make sure the prongs here, the 4 prongs, golden prongs, you want to make sure they go on top. Just sit it down, and it should align with these 2 screw holes as you see up here, one in here and one here. Now that you got the earpiece in, you'll take this other part of the flex, go ahead and cover it up, and make sure that it aligns, because you see you want to make sure all 4 of those align together. Now once you got that on, you can simply just take the plate, sit it in, and screw back the 3 screws. And once you've got those 3 screws in, you're basically done with the new screen assembly. Now you'll just go ahead and install it back onto your phone, which you have here. Now installing these ribbons back onto the board can get a little tricky, but what you want to do is you want to notice that these flex cables, they go from shorter to longer. So you see the first one that we have there will be the shorter one, then the middle one, which is a little bit slightly longer, and then we have the third one, which is equal height as the equal length as this vertical ribbon here. So what you'll do is go ahead and take the shortest cable and connect it onto the first connector here. You'll hear a little snap, and that's how you know it's in. And then move to the second one and install it into the connector below, and the third one, and so on. Now once you've got those connectors in, just simply take the plate, sit them on top of the connectors, make sure all the holes are lined up so you don't have any trouble putting the screws in, and yep, just install the screws. Now that we've got all 5 screws in, you're ready to just, you know, settle in the face of this, the new assembly. What you'll do here is you want to stick the top portion in first. You want to go in at an angle and make sure it goes in flush with the frame on top here. And then after, you can slowly just work your way down, you know, side to side and install the screen. Now if you have a little bit of frame damage, you will have a little bit of a harder time doing so. So just tread real carefully, because if you have like a bent frame or something, you could easily damage your new screen assembly. And now that you see that we've gotten the screen in, we'll just go ahead and take the pentalobe screwdriver and install the 2 bottom screws. Once you got the 2 bottom screws back in, you're done. Just power up the phone and make sure everything works.